Good morning. Welcome back to another episode of HardFoul Radio. This is the show that values time and puts God first. Appreciate everybody for joining in today. Let's get started. So, hmm, good way to start the show. So, Denver didn't embarrass me last night. In fact, Denver did the exact opposite. They did what you're supposed to do in that kind of situation if you truly think you are an elite team, which is you have a game plan in place that you're not trying to lose the game. So you don't do anything crazy, you don't do anything over the top. They walked into that game against the Cincinnati Bengals with no Joe Burrow and no, hey, look, the only way we lose this game is if we lose it. Like, you don't have to necessarily win that game, you just can't lose that game. And you saw throughout the Bengals get that first drive. There's a little bit of momentum on script. That's the best Jake Browning is going to be all night. The Bengals drive down the field to get a field goal. The remainder of the game, when Jake Browning has to do anything more than be on script, when he has to be any kind of special, they don't cross the 50-yard line. That's how dominant Denver's defense should have been. In that situation, you're at home Monday night. You don't let the backup quarterback, even with Jamar Chase, even with T. Higgins, don't let him cross the 50-yard line. Perfect, perfect debut, or not debut, I'm sorry, perfect display from the Denver defense, how great it can be. The pass rush, which, if you're a Broncos fan, I know Vance Joseph last year was going crazy with blitzes and he was blitzing at the highest percentage. And through the first 2 weeks, he was doing the same. The last 2 weeks, Denver's not blitzing as much. And he is finally allowing, because they do have coverage issues with running backs out of the backfield, tight ends. That was a big story the entire season of how do they cover those guys, having issues with those guys. He's now just letting his pass rushers win matchups. Nick Benito, Jonathan Cooper, Zach Allen, John Franklin Myers. Like, Denver has the best pass rush in the NFL, and he is allowing them. He's playing a lot more coverage, and he's letting those guys just go get the quarterback. He's not doing a whole bunch of blitzes. He's not doing a whole bunch of schemes. He is allowing the talent that he has, where they're great, allow them to be great. And Sean Payne, I thought, called a great game last night. They were able to run the ball with J.K. Dobbins, which I've not been the guy to say, oh, Bo Nix is the reason the Broncos are special. Bo Nix is the reason the Broncos have a chance to go to the Super Bowl. I have been very consistent since the start of the season. This is an offensive line, the best in the league, which we need to start also recognizing Garrett Bowles. Garrett Bowles might be the best left tackle in football. I haven't said this out loud before, but as I'm watching that game last night, and as you keep looking at what he did last year, what he's done this year, has the least amount of pressures allowed by a left tackle, hasn't given up a sack in forever. Like, he might be the guy. He's 33. He's not a quote unquote household name. He is not the, most physically. Garrett Bowles is a big dude. He's not the most physically imposing guy in the world. He's not Trent Williams. He's not Larry Tunsil from a few years ago. But right now, there's not a left tackle playing better. And the one of the sorry, and so this offensive line, the way they're playing, has been great. Bo, if they can get J.K. Dobbins a real running game. Bo Nix did not have a running game legitimately at all last year. Did not have a running game the first 2 weeks this year. So J.K. Dobbins, first 100-yard rusher in the Sean Payton era. You get Bo Nix a running game, it starts to open up for the offense. Again, people were critical of Denver's receivers heading into the season. Mims, Cortland Sutton, Evan Ingram is working his way back in. Like, Denver has guys, Troy Franklin, who, like, Bo might have had, they had 500 of offense. They might have had 600, but there was 4 drops to the receivers. Like, Bo is able to get the job done. 1,000%. Is he the best player on the team? No. But is he 1,000% a quarterback that can get you to the playoffs and you will feel good as a fan that he could win you a playoff game or two? 1,000,000%. 1,000,000%. And look where Denver was just 2 years ago. And look where Denver is now. This is how quick you can turn around the NFL, which makes it so unique compared to the other sports where, unless you get a generational talent, which Denver only has one, and they were bad when PS2 first got there, unless you get a generational talent in baseball or in basketball, you don't feel like you can just, get the right coach, get the right GM, and immediately turn around. Denver still is paying off Russ Wilson. This is their last year of having the dead cap against this team. So this team's going to be better, and they've already started paying guys. PS2 is paid. Zach Gallen just got paid. Nick Bonito got paid. Cooper got paid. They're going to have to pay. They paid Garrett Bowles. They're going to have to pay another offensive lineman here once their contracts are like. This team is set up not just to be good now, but to be good for the foreseeable future. And can we say this? That's a game again that the refs were throwing flags on everything, and they were throwing it on both teams. This was a very flag happy crew. They were just throwing flags, throwing flags, throwing flags. The slightest twitch. Yes, there were calls that I didn't agree with the call against Cincinnati with the center. I also didn't agree with them flagging Luke Wanberg, Denver center, 3 or 4 times. Like it was just a weird flag game. Again, Denver, the way you play last night is you cannot lose to Jake Browning. The Bengals just do not have enough offensive firepower to compete with you. And getting all those flags thrown, that's how a team could stay in the game. Extending some drives and flags, you getting pushed back, having a bunch of first and 15s, first and 20s, and to still go out there, win 28-3. Again, Bo got you over 300 yards, and with a couple drops, it could have been almost 400 yards. You get almost 200 yards rushing. That's the team that we all thought we were going to see. And I get it. It's the Bengals. They're not very good. Joe Burrow's not there. Their defense. But that's what you're supposed to do to teams like that. You're supposed to beat those teams up. You're supposed to look dominant. So A plus for Denver all the way around. Again, that's a game that I've seen them lose. That's a game I've seen them mess up. And Bo was good. Yes, he had the one red zone interception that I didn't love, but that play was kind of dead from the start. Yeah, and he ran for a touchdown. He threw for a couple. J.K. Dobbins got you 100 plus yards on the ground. The running game in total was good, and that's the kind of momentum you build going into what is going to be their real test next week, playing 1 o'clock game, the Philadelphia Eagles, and we'll see where Denver stacks up against the elite of the elite. Let's talk about Bengals real quick. This is why it's so important, and I keep hammering this. Ownership, GM, coach, quarterback. It's so important to go 4 for 4. And I know maybe that seems unfair, like, oh, you got to go 4 for 4, but you really do. Otherwise, you have situations like this. Yes, most teams are tanked without their starting quarterback. So I'm not going to kill the Bengals because obviously no Joe Burrow. Jake Browning is a huge downgrade. The other problem is, though, when you pay your quarterback a lot of money, between your owner and your GM, got to be able to find talent. You got to be able to find cheap talent in the draft. You got to be able to sit there and use your resources accordingly. And I don't think the Bengals did that. You see just how few special players the Bengals have. Like it is literally Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Trey Hendrickson, and then what? I know Shamar Stewart, the rookie that they drafted, didn't play, but they tried everything in their power in the offseason to mess that situation up from the jump. Like, you've got to have more than 3 or 4 guys who can jump off the page. Like, this is why this defense struggles so much. And because you're not in unison with your head coach, who's an offensive guy, and you've put all of your cap into these 3 offensive guys, 3 of your 4 guys that you've paid all on the offense, he's not going to really elevate them, make them that much better. They're already great. Like, Jamar Chase is already great. T. Higgins is already great. Burrow's already great. And so what is the plan for the Cincinnati Bengals? Because when you lose a Joe Burrow, who is unfortunately at this point in his career, you have to say injury prone. He's a guy who's maybe going to have a horrible distinction of being a 3-time comeback player of the year, which is an impressive thing to do, but also shows that there is consistent injuries here. Like, what are you going to do once any of those guys are gone? Let's say it was Chase gets hurt or Higgins were to get hurt and Burrow was still there. And now you just have one receiver, your quarterback, and a defensive end. Like, you don't see special on the offensive line. You don't see special anywhere on the defense. Even if Burrow, like, the only way this team is going to get back to Joe Burrow getting this team to the Super Bowl when he did, only way you see them getting back is you have to have an all-time hit him out the park draft class, or maybe even two. Like, there's just not a lot of special on this team. And again, I get it. You're not Most teams aren't going anywhere without their quarterback. But the difference between this and what I believe happened with the Ravens is the Ravens lost several guys, and then you started to see a very talented high-end roster go away. Like, they said on the Monday Night Football broadcast last night, let's start putting names to the guy. Like, because it wasn't just six Ravens went out with injuries. It was Lamar Jackson, Roquan Smith, Marlon Humphrey, Nate Wiggins. I've already lost Matabuke, who got rolled out for the season. Like, those are names. Those are guys. You see the special. Where are those with the Bengals? Even if they ended up losing five or six guys, not to be disrespectful, but if they lost five or six guys, how many of them would you go, oh yeah, man, that's like a really big loss, or just go, oh damn, that sucks. They lost, a corner or a defensive tackle. Like, it wouldn't feel the same. The Ravens have guys, they have a roster, they have talent. That's because they got their owner, their GM, their head coach, their quarterback. The Bengals have their quarterback, and I don't know if it's good anywhere else. I'm not totally sold on Zach Taylor and where he's going to do a Super Bowl. Owner and GM, the owner is one of the cheapest in literally all four major sports. Like, the Bengals have a lot more issues than just Joe Burrow is out for the season. Because what does it look like when he comes back, and what does it look like going forward? So it looks rough for Cincinnati, man. That's all I'm going to say. Again, it's unfortunate Joe Burrow's out for the year, but it just looks rough. So much to talk about today, man. We are doing power rankings at the top of the hour. Get good, get great, get lost, get out. We'll see who ends up making that. How high, how low for the teams that played last night. Cincinnati, how high. We're going to talk a little bit of that Jets Dolphins game that they tried their best to hide from us, and so much more. This is HardFoul Radio. Appreciate you guys as always. And don't forget, as always, want to give a special shout out to the sponsor of today's show, Dubby. Look, man, it's 4 o'clock in the morning. Got a podcast, got a wife. I got way too many animals. You got to stay energized. You got to stay having energy. And nobody does it better than Dubby. Go get yourself, using HardFoul 10 at checkout, go get yourself a tub. I got the solo level in one here. I got Shadow Monarch Surge. Shout out to all my anime fans, A&M. Appreciate you guys so much. Go get yourself a shaker. Again, go get yourself a tub. You need to stay energized. It works way better than energy drinks. Anybody that knows me, I'm drinking 5-6 cups of coffee a day. This has cut my coffee consumption literally in half. And there's no crash out later. Never been a guy huge on Monster, some of the other energy drinks. This, much healthier, no crash out, keeps me energized. Appreciate Dubby. Again, HardFoul 10 at checkout. This is HardFoul Radio. We'll be back momentarily. And we are back. This is HardFoul Radio. Appreciate everybody for tuning in as always. Excuse me. So last night, Jets Dolphins. I think there was a lot of again, we were talking about this a little bit yesterday. There's a lot of reality setting in for these NFL teams. There's a lot of clarity setting in for these teams. Those are two teams that unfortunately not very good. Just not very good. And the NFL and the scheduling department kind of lets you know before the game they're not very good. To the second Monday night football game, they were buried. Started an hour earlier. If you lived on the West Coast and you worked a normal 9 to 5, this game would have been in the second quarter before you even get off work. Um, you know, unfortunately, the Tyreek Hill injury probably officially torpedoes the Dolphins season, even though they did win that game. Tua looks small. The Dolphins offense. Has anyone paid attention to this? Last year, the NFL made a rule change, and it was in regards to it was a rule change slash, hey, we're gonna pay more attention. Sometimes they put out these notices that say, hey, we're gonna be paying more attention to this because we realize teams are getting away with it. Um, the tush push, obviously, this was a few weeks ago. Philly was jumping off sides against the Chiefs. And the NFL basically came out and said, "Hey, we're gonna start paying more attention to the tush push. We're gonna like start really paying attention if they're jumping off sides." They do this all the time. The NFL said, "Hey, we're going to start flagging teams that are using illegal motion." And this is two guys moving at the same time, a guy moving when he's not supposed to before the ball is snapped, et cetera, et cetera. And the three teams that were the three teams that were the biggest users of this example of motion were the Los Angeles Rams, the San Francisco 49ers, and the Miami Dolphins. Since that came out these last 2 years, the 49ers offense, while you could argue it has struggled, I think it's mostly just been down with injuries. The Rams, their offense keeps firing, keeps doing what they're doing. The team that's been most affected and the worst since this rule was put into effect and they were keeping extra eyes on it, the Miami Dolphins and Tua. Because the reality in Mike McDaniel's world, when Tua Tagovailoa is your quarterback, you got to do tricky stuff. You got to do non-conventional stuff. You have to do stuff that's going to get people off their spot. You got to do stuff that is going to get people to react in a way like hit the trick them outright. Micah before the season started, when he was talking about the Lions, he's like, "Oh yeah, well they gotta trick people. That's not they can't line to beat somebody 1-on-1." That was incorrect. The Lions can absolutely line up 1-on-1, but the Lions also do trick plays because when you're doing, the difference in what the Lions do is they can line up and beat you 1-on-1. Tua can't do that. Tua needs the scheme to be good. Tua needs his playmakers to be able to make plays. Tua needs the situation to be damn near almost perfect if he is going to have consistent success in the NFL. This is the reality of having Tua as your quarterback. Again, I call me a homer, call me biased. That's the one thing that I'm not quite there with. I'm not there with Bo yet. Is yes, Bo has a great offensive play calling Sean Payton, who's going to scheme guys open, but I've seen Bo use athleticism, make plays. I've seen Bo be able to extend plays. Like he has made really good throws to the point of he doesn't feel like, oh, he is just the system. Tua feels like just the system. And I don't know how far that's going to get you. They got the win last night. Darren Waller has a couple of touchdowns, but that felt like two bad teams playing each other. Let's be honest. And the Jets, look, man, Sauce Gardner's a really good corner. Garrett Wilson's a really good receiver. They got a couple other Quentin Williams, like they got a couple of guys. Justin Fields is an incredible athlete. He is just not a starting quarterback in the NFL consistently. I had some hope post week one that, oh, maybe we were going to really see Justin Fields break out. But if you're not winning the game when it's the other team's also bad, how many games are you winning, Jets? This just feels like the Jets are a hosting place for whichever quarterback coming out of college that you feel like is gonna be the guy, whether that's Aller, whether that's Dante Moore from Oregon starting to get a lot of love. If you think Archer's going to come out this, like whoever it is, the Jets are just turned into a holding place for one of the top quarterbacks in the draft. And I said before the season, they might have already known that, which is why they paid Sauce Gardner, which is why they paid Garrett Wilson and just said, hey guys, this first year is going to suck. So we're basically going to pay you to not be bad for the locker room. We're going to pay you to kind of just sit there and take it. Like, we're going to make you the highest paid corner. We're going to make you one of the highest paid receivers. But it's going to be a rough year one. And we'll see where we rebound from there. We'll see where we go after that. And so maybe the Jets already knew this, but I'm watching that game. And week one, obviously, the Jets offense looked really good. They're playing the Steelers. It's week one. A lot of weird stuff happens in week one. And the Jets' offensive explosion, we can now classify in that weird stuff that happens in week one. Moving on to one of my favorite parts of the show. Why would he say that? I love Colin Cowherd, man. I've been a watcher for so many years, and I hate putting Colin on these. But when you watch enough different people, you hear enough things, you just honest is honest, and you got to be true to the segment. Why would he say that? And this was over several different things. And now, Colin is he has X amount of standards of rules. And I agree with a lot of them, which is when you're playing professional sports, excellence is the expectation. It's not the exception. He doesn't exactly phrase it that way, but that's pretty much what he gets at. Excellence is not the exception. Excellence is the expectation. So when Colin goes on there, a lot of times he's like, I don't care about excuses. Don't tell me the ref screwed you over, even if they did. Like, I remember him that Saints Rams game, the NFC Championship game, when we all clearly saw like the Saints player just get run over by the Rams corner way before the ball get there and no call. He's like, look, don't tell me about that call, lost to the game. It's like, all right, Colin, it kind of did. That's an egregious one, right? But I normally agree with him. He said, don't tell me about injuries. He's like, the Steelers outplayed the Vikings. The Vikings barely had an offensive line. I don't agree that the Steelers outplayed the Vikings. I do think that cluster injuries, especially in an isolated game, maybe over the course of a season, I'm less likely to give you the excuse. But why are the Chargers not as good today as they were 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago? Because they have multiple offensive line injuries. Two of their best players, one of the reasons that people believed in this team so much is that they had maybe the best set of tackles in the league. They're both gone right now. Joe Alt's going to miss several weeks. Obviously, Rashawn Slater's out for the season. Like, that's Val Amakai Becton, who, again, was playing good while he was in there. He's out. That's not a excuse of why they're not as good today as they were yesterday. It's the reality of why they're not as good today as they were yesterday. The Vikings in that game, again, multiple offensive line injuries. Your quarterback, your starting quarterback, you're out there with Carson Wentz because your starting quarterback is hurt. Yes, that's not a excuse. That's not a, oh, poor pity me. That's just the reality. The other one was the Baltimore Ravens. He's like, the Chiefs just totally outplayed them. I don't want to hear about the injuries. Yes, the Chiefs probably win that game regardless. I agree. But don't tell me, again, go back to the Monday Night Football broadcast. Don't tell me when Roquan Smith, Nate Wiggins, Marlon Humphrey, Lamar Jackson, all these guys, Ronnie Stanley, when all these big time names, these guys that we know, when they're all missing time, when they're all missing games, that's not an excuse. If I'm down half my starting defense, yes, the Ravens defense has not been good this year. Agreed. Agreed. But when you're missing 6 of those guys, your starting defense is down, which isn't very good. It's missing half its starters. That Bengals game last night, you don't think it's different if Joe Burrow is in that game? Again, a guy goes out for a game. I remember PS2 has left 2 games in his career early due to injury. I don't think that is enough to say why they lost. Like the last year's Chargers game, for example, the one that both struggled all up and down the first couple of quarters. PS2 left, and it was like, oh man, PS2 left. This game shouldn't count. No, that game still counts. You still have all these other guys. You still have Benito. You still have Cooper. You still had Riley. Like you still had the majority and the core of your defense. One guy for one game is not enough to say, oh, okay, we got screwed over just by injuries. But when you have cluster injuries, the Vikings and Chargers offensive line, when you have cluster injuries, the entire Ravens defense, when you have your quarterback is hurt for multiple weeks or long stretches of the season, Vikings, Bengals, that's not making an excuse based on injuries. That is dealing with the new reality for those teams, which is those are just different teams. The Chargers team that's going to take the field this next week, they might win, but down three of your offensive linemen, Justin Herbert keeps getting hit. He's been hit more than any quarterback in the league the last 2 weeks, which what was the purpose of this team? How were they built? How were they constructed? To keep Justin Herbert upright because that's their best player. And not that I think it's going to really destroy or damage Justin Herbert in the short term. He's in his 20s, he's young, he's in his athletic prime. But this is how, when you take this amount of hits, this is how you become an old 32-year-old way faster than you think. Again, Andrew Luck's the prime example of he got hit so much he just walked away from the game. You keep getting hit at the rate Herbert's been getting hit this year because of the injuries to his offensive line. This is how you become an old 32, 33-year-old. You don't play until you're 36, 37. This is the difference in having a talent like Justin Herbert for a 10 to 12-year stretch versus having a talent like Justin Herbert for a 15 to 17-year stretch. That is franchise altering. So I don't agree with again, if it's for a game, fine. You got to man up. Excellence is the expectation. It is not the exception when it comes to professional sports. But you start having cluster injuries like the Chargers, like the Vikings, like the Ravens. All this stuff adds up. Like injuries are a part of the game. And at some point, you just lose too many guys, you're going to be a different football team. You're going to be supplying a different product. You're not going to be the same team that we thought you were heading into the season. That's just the reality of it. So, Colin, I hate to do it. I love Colin. I watch the herd every single day. You can't say I don't want to hear about injuries, man, especially when it comes to cluster injuries for some of these teams like the Bengals, like the Vikings, like the Chargers, like the Ravens. You just can't do it. They're fielding entirely different teams, fielding entirely different products. It is not the same. Look, and I know. So Tony's going to be on later in the week. I'm probably going to be one of the last people to give up on the Ravens. I get to a point with certain teams after sustained greatness that you just can't give up on them, right? Now, and they're going to call me a hypocrite because they're going to say, "Oh, well, you were saying all this about the Chiefs last year, and you're saying the Chiefs weren't as good." I was saying the Chiefs all of last year, and I stand on this, and I was proven correct, and I feel I'm still going to be proven correct, continue to be proven correct. The Chiefs, who they were, are no longer who they are, and I was saying that all last season. That Mahomes is no longer even the Mahomes from 2 years ago, and that's because Chris Jones isn't the same player. Travis Kelce's not the same player. I've even started to say I don't even know if Andy Reid is the same level of play caller that he was a few years ago. I could see the regression with the Chiefs, but they were coming from this extremely high place. Multiple AFC championship games in a row, multiple Super Bowls in a row. The dynasty of that era, of this era, like I'm saying, hey, they're no longer that. And I stand on that, and I still believe that to be true. The Ravens, I've just seen it's the talent is just there, man. I see Lamar, I see Derrick Henry. Yes, now if they have of all these injuries on defense sustained, and if they're all going to miss several weeks, and this defense already isn't good enough, and if Lamar misses a couple weeks, fine, they're just done. They're just done. But if Lamar comes back and they can get to their bye and they can get guys back on defense, I'm going to be one of the last people to count this team out. Now, if I'm just end up being dead ass wrong, well then it'll be a hard left for a Monday. but I'm going to be one of the last people to give up on the Ravens. And again, we're going to have Tony later in the week, and he will discuss, you know, do they need a coaching change? Do they need a coordinator change? Like, what do they do to get themselves back on track? Right now, for me, it just feels like get healthy. Because if you're fielding a team with Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, you get Nate Wiggins and Marlon Humphrey back, your starting corners. You get Roquan Smith back, your starting linebacker, one of the best linebackers in the game of football. Yes, the Matabuke injury is tough, but they have other guys who can help supplement that. And again, I just talked about it. Injuries, when you have cluster injuries, when you're down 5, 6 guys, Ronnie Stanley, obviously, they also need to get back too. And I just don't trust the division. Look, we're going to do power rankings at the top of the hour. I just don't trust Pittsburgh. The 3-1, I don't trust them. I don't. Like I keep joking, like Mike Tomlin was going to pull off 8-1, and then the Packers and Cowboys stole the tie of the season, and there's usually only one tie per season, if we even get one. I just don't trust them. And so because of that, I obviously don't trust the Bengals. Joe Burrow's out for the year. Obviously, the Browns aren't good enough, and I don't trust Pittsburgh. So I just feel like, and even the betting odds right now are take Baltimore. They are by far and away the favorites to win that division. And I agree. Like, the reality is that team, I just can't imagine them losing or not making the playoffs, not being a team that you have to consider as one of the best teams in the NFL. And I know Lamar has his playoff struggles, but if you're lining up, if you're not exactly the Kansas City Chiefs, maybe the Buffalo Bills, you don't want to see Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry lined up against you in the playoffs. You just don't. I understand he hasn't had the success. I understand it's funny right now to call him James Harden. I understand all of the criticism, and it's fair and it's valid because he is such an elite level player. He's one of the greatest regular season players you've ever seen already in the history of the sport. That there's validity in saying, hey, he underperforms in the playoffs. I'm just not ready to say, oh, yeah, Lamar's not the guy or Lamar can't do it. And maybe I'll just be one of the last ones to go down and I'll just go down with the ship. And if I do, fine. I accept it. I understand it. It is what it is. So much more to talk about. Excuse me. It is a Tuesday. Again, power rankings at the top of the hour at 5 a.m. This is HardFoul Radio. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. We'll be back momentarily. And we are back. This is HardFoul Radio. Appreciate everybody, as always, tuning in. I'm always going to say I appreciate everybody every time we come back from break because I'm just truly appreciative. Anyone who's given me the time of day, anyone who is willing to stop by and listen, anyone who goes and checks out the YouTube, checks out the TikTok, checks out any of the stuff we're doing here on social media. I truly, truly, truly appreciate you guys in ways I cannot fully get across. Here, a team that everybody I feel like is fake concerned about is the Eagles. I don't really know how to put it outside of this is the best way I think I can understand the Eagles' current situation. I live in America. Maybe you're watching this and you don't live in America. In America, there's a lot of people that struggle with budgeting. It's a very funny word, budget. Sticking to your budget, not overspending your budget, managing your resources accordingly. However much you make then dictates how much you can spend and what you can do. And that's how I feel about offenses sometimes. That sometimes teams just don't have enough in their budget, right? Some people just don't flat out make enough money. They are low income. It just don't have enough resources, right? And that's a team. Again, I don't want to keep picking on them, but like the Bengals without Joe Burrow, even with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, Jake Browning doesn't have enough resources to get that offense to look like Joe Burrow gets that offense to look like. The Jets just flat out don't have enough resources. Garrett Wilson's good, and then it's a bunch of hope, pray, duct tape, etc. They just don't have the resources to even attempt to budget. The Philadelphia Eagles are they don't budget well, but they have so many resources. I don't know if it's actually going to matter. Meaning, hear me out. Nobody is looking at this team and going, well, AJ Brown's not good anymore. Devontae Smith's not good anymore. Yes, they only had 4 catches for 36 yards on the win on Sunday. The team still scored 30 points. No one's saying Dallas Goedert's not good anymore. No one's saying Saquon Barkley's not good anymore. No one's even going to attempt to slander the offensive line, which is the best in the league. Do they budget very well? Are they making sure that when they're divvying up their resources, AJ is getting a quality amount, Devontae's getting a quality amount, Saquon's getting a quality amount, Goddard? No, they don't budget very well. They're like most Americans. Most Americans struggle with budgeting because most Americans do make enough money. They just don't budget well. Most people. I'm using Americans because I'm just not from other countries, and so I don't want to use the dynamics of a culture that I'm not a part of. Most people just don't budget well. But the Eagles, if they have to, it feels like, well, I've got AJ Brown, I have Devontae Smith, I have Saquon Barkley, I've got Jalen Hurts and his ability to run and throw as a quarterback. Am I really worried? Yeah, you need to budget better. But you know people that don't budget well do? They just spend more money because they have it. They have having AJ Brown is having more money. Having Devontae Smith is having more money. Having Saquon on that offensive line is having more money. Having that defense, Jalen Carter, that's just having more money. Like the amount of resources they have, I'm not going to be concerned if you're the multi-millionaire who overspends. You have millions and millions of dollars. Like it's what are we talking about here? If the Broncos didn't manage their money well, and Sean Payton uses a lot of personnel. If you are dressed for that game, you will play in a Sean Payton offense. He will play and draw and design plays for 2 to 3 tight ends, 3 to 4 receivers. Because he knows realistically, he likes Cortland Sutton, he likes Marvin Mims, but he doesn't have an A plus receiving core. He doesn't have an A plus tight end core. He doesn't necessarily have an A plus running back, even though J.K. Dobbins has been balling. he has to resource and budget appropriately because this isn't one of the best skill position groups in the NFL. So when Sean Payton gets 500 yards, you see the play calling. Even that game against the Chargers last week. And everybody's like, oh, yeah. And I was one of them. Bo was overthrowing guys. Guys were getting open. Why? Because you saw the scheme and the way guys running the routes, getting schemed open. They hit the one big one to Cortland, but you saw the flea flicker to get Marvin Mims. Bo just overthrows. You see the other one in the fourth quarter to get Cortland again. Bo overthrows. Like, you see the play calling. You see the scheme. You see his ability to budget because his resources are more limited. The Eagles, the reality is, just doesn't apply to them. They have so many resources. They have so many guys. They have so much that they can do because you have two Pro Bowl level receivers. AJ is considered a top 5. Like, we're going to talk about on group chat this week about when we talked about a little bit last week or 2 weeks ago, I'm sorry, should Puka be in the top 5? Part of the reason Puka's not in the top 5 is because we all know Puka's numbers are going to be maybe 1 or 2 in the league. But we look at him, we're like, he's not Justin Jefferson. He's not Jamar Chase. He's not A.J. Brown. Like, the Eagles are just a really, really rich person who struggles with budgeting. But they have so much money, does it really matter that they struggle with budgeting? I would rather be in their position than the Jets. I'd rather be in their position than the Dolphins. I'd rather be in their position than almost every other team in the league. Look at what, again, look at the Chiefs. If you believe that Xavier Worthy fixed all the Chiefs' problems, I don't. But if you believe that he did because of that game on Sunday, look at what happened just because of Xavier Worthy being there for Mahomes. That player, that additional resource, they looked like they were the old Kansas City Chiefs. The Eagles have multiple players better than Xavier Worthy. So when it's finally time when it clicks between Jalen, the OC, the receivers, the running back, nobody's going to want to see this team. Does it look a little rough right now? Sure. Are they winning games? I've seen the comparison to last year's Chiefs team. Yeah. But the difference in them and last year's Chiefs team is they don't have the guy who I feel like is past his prime the way Travis Kelce was last year. They don't have, knock on wood, Rashee Rice, who got injured last year for the Chiefs, and that obviously had an impact on their offense. They don't have a Xavier Worthy who they're just trying to work in and hope that he's good and develops into a receiver later in the season. They've already got guys. They've already got the best O-line. They've already got the best duo at receiver. They've already got maybe the best running back in football. They just don't budget well. And that's an OC thing. That's a play caller thing. That's a head coach thing. But I'd rather be the Philadelphia Eagles. So I'm not, it's the people that are concerned about the Eagles. I just don't buy it. There's no concern over here. Do they lose this weekend to the Broncos? I'm praying for it. This is HardFoul Radio. We'll be back momentarily. Do they lose this weekend to the Broncos? I'm praying for it. This is HardFoul Radio. We'll be back momentarily. Technical issues aside, we are back. This is HardFoul Radio. Sorry about that. We lost power rankings, but I will post the official power rankings on socials. Mike got fucked up, so that was wonderful. So, excuse me. Listening, or I want to go back really quick to the Bronco Bengals game. So, Bo Nix last night was 12 of 16 for 150 yards and a touchdown when the Bengals blitzed. Again, this is the difference between a guy who needs everything to be on script, needs everything to be perfect as far as a play call in order to succeed, which is what I think you saw in the first game with Tua versus what Bo does. And again, I'm not saying Bo is a top 10 guy. I'm not saying Bo is elite. I'm not saying Bo is one of the best quarterbacks in football. But Tua, when you get him off his first step, when you get him off his first read, still in the year that he's in now, and he's played in the league longer than Bo has, he still needs the play call to be right, the guy to be open, the line to protect perfectly. Like all this stuff he needs to be damn near perfect in order to feel like Miami has a chance at a successful offense. Bo can improvise, he can run, he's more athletic than people give him credit for. Last night, as Sean Payne said, there was the play at the end of the half where he kind of bailed him out of, with the third down play to Sutton, because Sean admitted, like, hey, I got my time mixed up, I got the play call messed up, and then they had Cincinnati had the penalty, and that kind of threw him off. And he's like, yeah, Bo just made a play on third down. He threw it to Sutton, touchdown before to end the half. So Bo is able to improvise and create above and beyond just what the offense can scheme up. Yes, it extremely helpful that the offense can scheme up those kind of things, 1,000%, obviously. But Bo being able to do that little bit extra, like, and no, Bo's not Drew Brees. Bo's not, insert your. I think Bo is good. I think Bo has a chance to be really good. Right now, Bo's just good. You still see a throw or two each game that's like, eh. You see footwork every now and again that's like, eh. But Bo is good enough to win you games at the NFL level. He is good enough to improvise. It doesn't feel like a Tua situation where everything has to be perfect in order for him to succeed. It's just being honest here. Again, 12 of 16 versus the Blitz. Now, probably the best thing for Bo is that Philly gets to wear the crown, because Philly is the defending Super Bowl champs and they have more notable names and probably have historically the best player in Lane Johnson. But Denver's got the best offensive line in football. Look, when you're a quarterback I don't care if they're young, old, MVP, barely a starter, Pro Bowler, whatever level it is, your offensive line has to be good. You can almost go around the league and just go, okay, good offensive line, bad offensive line, and you can almost just mark the bad offensive lines out. Like, they just are not going to make the playoffs, because you can't succeed if your quarterback is constantly on his ass, constantly under duress, constantly under pressure. It's not going to work. So the teams that have outright bad offensive lines, just mark them off. They're not going to be playoff teams. They're not going to be good teams. They're not going to be able to have sustained success. You know who is going to have sustained success? Who is going to be good? The teams with great offensive lines. Just look, excuse me, just go through the standings real quick, right? AFC's, who has the best offensive line? It's the Buffalo Bills. They're in first place. So far through this season, now the Chargers' offensive line has fallen apart, but the Chargers, Chiefs, and Broncos, all three teams that could be in the playoffs. Now, the Bengals are technically a playoff team as of this second, but they're falling. Three great offensive lines. The Chiefs' offensive line, to its credit, has played very well, except with the exception of exactly like left guard. But the Simmons, has played well left tackle for the Chiefs. Obviously, Comfrey at center, Smith at right guard, and Juwan Taylor, even though they allow him to jump offside, so it's legal, I guess. He's played well at right tackle. The Steelers' offensive line has actually played well. Now, a lot of that is they're doing quick passes because that's what Aaron Rodgers is comfortable with. But Offensive line has played well. Best offensive line in the AFC South, the Indianapolis Colts. The Jaguars' offensive line has improved. That's why they're 3-1. And the Texans and Titans have horrible offensive lines, and that's why they're 1-3, 0-4, respectively. Then go over to the NFC. 4-0 Eagles, great offensive line. 3-1 Niners, Trent Williams. What more can you say? Trent is so great that he is worth an offensive line unto himself. I know the rest of the offensive line is not as great, but Kyle schemes a lot of those guys, and Trent Williams is one of the greatest left tackles to ever play the position. The Seahawks upgraded their offensive line. That's why Sam Darnold, again, you're seeing the success. The Rams have been retooling. They have a good offensive line. The Lions, 3-1, leading the NFC North, best offensive line in that division. The Bears and Packers and Vikings, all respectable records, all have really good offensive lines. That division, nobody under 500. And in the NFC South, the Bucks do have the best offensive line. Now they've got Tristan Wirfs has been injured, but Falcons, Panthers, Saints, you see the struggles and their records reflect. Bo's greatest gift is that he inherited that offensive line. McGlinchey, Miners, Wattenberg. I know there was penalties last night, but that whole crew was throwing flags on everything. Ben Powers, and my opinion right now, the best left tackle, the way he is actively playing in Garrett Bowles. Why was Caleb struggling? Like, look at the other quarterbacks from last year's class. Jaden was okay, so Jaden was just spectacular. So his offensive line was great, but he was so spectacular. Let's kind of isolate him, right? No one's having Jane Daniels or Bo Nick's arguments, and they shouldn't. Caleb struggled. Why? He took a lot of sacks. Some of that, yes, is Caleb holds on to the ball too long, and some of that is the offensive line last year in Chicago not very good. They were talking about all these receivers: Keenan Allen, Rome Odunze, DJ Moore, and then Cole Kmet at tight end, and the offensive line was awful. Caleb took a record number of sacks. Drake May, really talented, young, has the arm, has the body, everything looks great. Patriots offensive line not very good. He takes a bunch of sacks. That's his rookie season. Michael Penix doesn't really play, but when we do see him in the game, the Atlanta Falcons, their offensive line, they was not very good. They went and signed two guys in free agency. It's looked better, so the offenses look better, but you see offensive line impact on a young quarterback. And JJ McCarthy, imagine his struggles if his offensive line wasn't very good. His offensive line has given him time, has given him protection. He's obviously hurt right now, but the little bit we've seen of him, excuse me, that offensive line has made a world of difference. So, out of the guys that have played over these last 2 years, the 6 quarterbacks drafted last year, I'm missing somebody. I'm sorry. McCarthy, Penix, Nix, May, Caleb, Jaden. Oh yeah, there's everybody. Okay, so Bo's had the best offensive line, and that's why he has been statistically and to me, eye test, the second best quarterback since last year. I know because of Caleb's resume coming into the draft, there are still people that are going to have Caleb over Bo. That's fine. I'm not here to argue with you people. I like Chicago. I like the Bears. I think the Bears make the playoffs. But the fact is, Bo's made the playoffs. He's got more touchdowns than Caleb. Touchdown interception ratio. Caleb does have a better touchdown interception ratio, but he takes such a high amount of sacks that I don't know if that really matters quite as much because he's still stalling out drives, getting hit too much. Offensive line is just, we got to start talking about them as if they are skill positions. Look, the Bills and this iteration of Josh Allen, which some people think is the best version of him, he doesn't have a dominant receiver. He doesn't have a Stephon Diggs anymore. Well, let's see what Keon Coleman becomes. But you know what? This version is anchored by one of the best offensive lines in football. This version of Jared Goff, best version of him. Why? One of the best offensive lines in football. Jalen Hurts, say what you want about his struggles, not throwing the ball enough, this, that, and the third. One of the best offensive lines in football. Like, getting your offensive line correct, maybe like second to quarterback. And honestly, probably get your offensive line correct first, then go get you a quarterback. Because if you have the right quarterback, but you don't have the offensive line, well, then you're just the Cincinnati Bengals. And we've seen how that's worked out. Just saying, man. Stop me when I'm telling a lie. Stop me when I'm telling a lie. Get your offensive line. That's your skill position. Get those 5 guys right, then get you a quarterback. This is HardFoul Radio. We'll be back momentarily. And we are back. I want to give some love to baseball here really quick. So, again, obviously the NFL is in a league of its own when it comes to sports leagues. Roger Goodell said before the season, look, we're not competing with the MLB. We're not competing with the NBA. We are competing with Apple, Google, these other giants. And he's got a valid point. But I will give this to baseball. So this is the third straight year of MLB attendance growth for the first time since 2007. Third straight year, more than 70 million. First time since 2017 in terms of fans attendance. Dodgers and Padres both set franchise attendance records. Mets and the Diamondbacks best attendance since 2008. Now, mind you, that's two teams in the playoffs, two teams out of the playoffs. Phillies best attendance since 2012. They're the one seed. Reds best attendance since 2015. And Tigers best attendance since 2016. Look, Baseball has, you have to give them credit. Now, I'm not a Rob Manfred guy, but you've got to give them credit. They're adapting. Like, the talent has always been there. Something Tony and I have talked about over the last damn near decade is baseball at certain points has been more talented than the other two sports. They've had more raw natural talent in Major League Baseball and in than the NBA or the NFL. I mean, look at the guys who have played, like Trout, Otani, Kershaw, Verlander. Excuse me. Um, what's my man's name? I'm blanking. I'm sorry. Like, there's been a ton of talent to come through Major League Baseball the last decade, and yet it always struggled. And they struggled to relate to relate to a younger audience. The games were too long, as attention span shrunk, and they could not, even with all the talent they had, get people to come watch a baseball game. And then they made the clock change, and games went from pitch clock change. The games went from 3 hours to 2 hours and 15 minutes, 2 hours and 20 minutes. Some games were just over in 2 hours. And that has brought a whole bunch of people back. So now you've got the talent, you have it in a more presentable way. We're going to get the ABS system next year. We'll see how that goes. We'll probably hit robot umpires here in the next 4 or 5 years. You've got the superstars. You've got Aaron Judge. You've got Cal Raleigh, the MVP race. You've got, again, Otani. You have Paul Skeens. Like, there's so much here that baseball just, all it's got to do is figure out its presentation. And I think we're finally there. Now, some teams, yes, had less attendance, but like Tampa Bay had less attendance. Their stadium also was blown off the roof before the season started. So they were playing out of the Yankee secondary ballpark. Yes, they had less attendance. Shocker. Now there still is things baseball needs to fix, like forcing my Tampa Bay Rays to be sold, but that's another story for another day. But shout out to baseball. The attendance is there. People are watching the product again. This is good for sports. Um, Other thing I want to go to, and I am a new WNBA fan. I'll be honest with you. Last couple years, I finally got involved. I'm not some lifelong WNBA fan. I've always kind of been aware of women's basketball, but I have not been a super fan. I don't have a team that I root for. I still just kind of root for players as of this moment. It's similar to my experience of getting into college football. That being said, what the WNBA did, suspending Minnesota's head coach, is just a joke. Just a joke. To suspend a coach, because it's one thing if you want to fine them because they're criticizing officials. I get it. It's just, you have to show face and you have to say, hey, don't say this about the officials because there's gambling and there's all these other things that if you are criticizing officials, it feels like you are taking a shot at the integrity of the game. I get it. You can't suspend a coach for a potential game winner. You just can't. This is, it's there's a bunch of words I could say to be politically correct, but the fact is it's just fucking stupid. It's just fucking stupid. You cannot suspend a coach for a game winning, a chance to go to the WNBA finals. You can't do it, man. Like, there's a little bit of the W that feels like it's trying to take itself seriously in the wrong way. Like, it wants to be, we're serious and a super competitive sports league, and we're about these, like, that's what baseball was doing for years. It was all this, again, we talk about baseball's growth. Baseball was so, we're going to be how we've always been, and we're going to be tradition, and we're going to be rigid. Don't be rigid, man. It doesn't do you any good. You got more talent than you've ever had. You have more people wanting to come watch the games than you've ever had. Don't be stupid. Don't fuck this up. Suspending a coach for game. I don't know what to say, man. I do know what to say. Closing out this episode, I appreciate everybody. As always, I apologize for the audio issues during the Power Rankings. Power Rankings will be posted on the Twitter. Go check that out, the HardFoul Network Twitter. And I appreciate you guys as always, and I'll see you